Maybe you're sitting here right now feeling really full. Maybe your fridge is packed with leftovers, your pantry's full of cookies, and you've had more big meals in the past week than you can possibly count. Maybe you're feeling a little sluggish, a little done with all the food, but also not quite ready to start anything major yet. My friend, I am right there with you, and today I want to share what 2025 taught me and help you figure out what your 2025 taught you so that we can move into 2026 together. Welcome to the Biking Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Smith, and I lost 50 pounds riding my bike by focusing on what my body can do. Now, I teach other women how to do the same. I am obsessed with completely flipping the script on weight loss so that we can work out to feel good and feel strong. If you are ready to stop dieting, learn how to appreciate your body, and have fun riding your bike, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the podcast. Before we dive in today, I have something really exciting to tell you all about. On January 5th, not January 1st, because let's be real, who's ready to start anything on January 1st? I am running a completely free 5-day challenge to help you jumpstart your movement, your food strategy, and your 2026 goals. This challenge is for any woman who wants to lose weight without dieting, who wants a plan that actually fits their life, and who is done with the all or nothing approach that fizzles out by National Quitters Day on January 9th. We are starting on the 5th because you deserve a few days to rest, reflect, and transition. And then we are going all in together. So I would love for you to sign up. Please head on over to www.sassy.com/challenge. That's www.sasscy.com/challenge and just sign up for the challenge. Hit pause on this episode. I want you there. I want you there with me on January 5th. It is totally free. And here's the thing. Challenges are always better with friends. So bring someone with you. Tell someone about the challenge. Have her sign up too. Text her right now and tell her you have to sign up for this because we are going to hold one another accountable on January 5th and we are going to jumpstart our 2026 the right way. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that you sign up for the challenge before we dive into today's episode. So let's talk about what 2025 taught us. Let's talk about what we want to accomplish in 2026. Let's talk about where we are right now. Okay, so we are in the week between Christmas and New Year's. And if you're anything like me, you've been going hard with the food, with the family, with the gatherings, with the plans. I'll be really honest with you. This is my first day in weeks where I don't have anything planned, and I am loving it. I am not doing a single thing. I might not even do a bike ride or a workout today, even though I technically have all of this time. It's been nonstop. And, also, the food, my gosh, it's been phenomenal. Since Christmas Eve, we had a big ham dinner at our house. We have that every Christmas Eve. We also had Christmas dinner with my family, roast beef at my brother's house, Christmas with my husband's family the day after that. I had lunch out with a friend this weekend. I had football party and more food, and we still have New Year's Day celebrations and another football party this coming weekend. So it's not over yet. Honestly, I'm feeling a little bit full. I'm feeling a little bit sluggish. I'm feeling kind of done with all of the huge meals. My fridge is packed with all of these leftovers. My pantry's full of cookies. And I'm not beating myself up about anything and I don't want you to either, but I am starting to feel like, okay, I've had enough. I enjoyed all of the food. It was great. And this week is kind of my transition week into the challenge. I'm ready for this week to be slower. I'm ready for it to be a little bit quieter. I'm ready for it to be more restful so that I can recharge before we go all in on 2026 together next week. And I'm guessing you might be feeling the same way. So I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that and say, whatever it is you're feeling right now, I mean, you might be ready to start right now. And if so, that is freaking great. But if you're also kind of feeling like, I just need to really be gentle with myself this week, maybe it's, the start of my cycle this week. And so I am really trying to be really gentle with myself because my symptoms the past few cycles have been incredibly painful, to be quite honest with you. So I just want to kind of take it easy a little bit this week. And I thought, what better way to approach this week than by thinking about what 2025 taught me? What worked for me in 2025 and what didn't? And what am I taking into 2026? And I want you to do the same thing because this episode is basically kind of your closure for 2025 and your prep work for the challenge next week. Not that it's really work, but it's really helpful to just kind of reflect and think about what's been working, what's gone well, and what might you do a little bit differently next year? What might you want to accomplish next year? That's what I want this episode to be all about for you today. So by the end of the episode, you should have reflected on your own 2025. You're going to know what worked for you, what didn't, and what you want to shift in 2026. And you're going to be ready to get started on that challenge. Remember, it's www.sascy.com/challenge. I don't want you scrambling to figure out your goals on the spot next week. I want you to be kind of gently thinking about it beginning now. This is all about being honest with yourself, giving yourself some grace, and getting ready to really kind of focus on what you need. Because what works for me and what wasn't working for me might not be the same for you. And that's okay. That's exactly the point. All right, let's really get into it now. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about today is that movement doesn't have to be formal. This has been a huge takeaway for 2025 for me. Neat movement counts. Non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, it all counts. All movement counts. This was a huge, huge lesson for me. I had to kind of ease up on rigidity related to formal workouts because I just wasn't able to get them in the same way this year as I've been able to in the past. And I've been focusing more on just being generally active every day, focusing more on thinking about how can I fit just a little bit more movement into my day today, this week. So I'm in a season of life where I'm just busy with all my family and son's activities. There isn't as much time as there used to be when my son was younger. And instead of feeling guilty about this and giving myself a hard time and feeling helpless about it, I've just started paying attention to all of the movement that I am able to do, everything that I am able to fit in. I realized that, chores count. Chores are movement. Walking around the house counts. Walking in and out of work counts. Walking to the copier at work, that counts. Carrying groceries in, it's like formerly called the suitcase carry, that counts. Playing with my son counts. All of that neat movement, non-exercise activity, thermogenesis movement counts. It all adds up and it all feels good. I still am working with my personal trainer on strength training once a week. And I started that over a year ago. I think it was April of 2024. And I'm still making strength training a priority. But I'm not giving myself a hard time if I can't fit in 3 strength training workouts a week. Sometimes it's only that once a week with my trainer, and that's okay. I still fit in bike rides when I can, but I stopped beating myself up when I couldn't and when I didn't have a formal workout because I realized I was still moving my body. I was still active in all of the ways that mattered. So here's what I want you to think about. What movement did you do in 2025 that you didn't give yourself credit for, that maybe you thought wasn't good enough? Maybe you were on your feet all day at work, every single day. Maybe you played with your kids or your grandkids. Maybe you walked the dog regularly, danced in the kitchen, carried laundry up and down the stairs. Maybe you did yard work, cleaned the house, went shopping. All of that movement counts. All of that movement is movement. And I want you to start recognizing it and celebrating it. But because when we focus on what we do, what we did accomplish, then our brain keeps saying, oh, I want more of that. As opposed to when we focus on all of the things that we didn't do and we beat ourselves up, our brain is like, well, why should I even bother? I'm a loser and it's just not going to work out anyway. There's a really helpful kind of mindset shift there that just helps you feel better and actually gets you and brings you closer to the results that you want. Okay, so that was lesson 1. Now let me tell you about lesson 2. And this one was a big one for me. And what I really realized in 2025 is that consistency looks different in different seasons of life, in different seasons of the year, and that's okay. So what I really came to understand in 2025 is that consistency doesn't mean doing the same thing forever, doing the same thing over and over again. It means what fits in your life, doing what fits in your life right now. And what fits in your life is allowed to change. And also, I realized that consistency isn't necessarily the point, and being consistent isn't always possible. And that's not a bad thing. What we don't necessarily have to worry so much about is being consistent. What we need to worry about is being willing to start again. When things kind of go off the rails, being willing to jump back in and say, oh, okay, that week I really just wasn't able to do what I wanted to do, but this week is going to be different. So let me give you kind of a little bit of an example of this. 2024 was my year of strength training. That was the year where I decided I was going to go all in on strength training. I had abandoned it long enough. I knew it was something that was important for my body, and I went in hard on it. I loved it. I didn't love it. I was going to say I loved it. I think you all know I didn't love it, but it was what my body needed. And it was what I knew my body needed. And I had gotten really good at fitting bike rides in, but I knew that for my health, my wellness, my bone health, my muscle strength, my longevity, I knew that strength training really needed to be a priority. And so I really was consistent with strength training in 2024. 2025 was just more relaxed. I kept up with the strength training, but I eased up on the intensity, I eased up on the frequency, and I focused more on that general activity and being active every day. I gave myself more grace, and that was exactly what I needed in 2025. Now, as I'm looking ahead to 2026, I'm realizing I'm ready for a little bit more structure in my life again related to my workouts, because that is what is working, what is going to be working, what I want to be working for me in 2026. I want to fit in more formal workouts whenever I can. I want to add more bike rides back into my routine because I have been really focusing on that strength for so long. And movement really helps me with my energy. Movement really helps me feel good about myself and my body. It helps my mood, and I'm ready for that. I need that. And that's what I want in 2026. But here's the thing. I'm not mad at myself for taking it easier in 2025. That was the right call for 2025 for me for this season of my life. And now that I'm feeling like I'm transitioning into a somewhat different season, both in terms of my schedule and in terms of my own personal goals, I get to adjust. And that's great. That's awesome. And you don't have to do the same thing forever. You don't have to make the same adjustments I am. All you have to do is think about what works for me and how can I shift my life to really fit what's going to work for me right now and what's going to work for me in 2026. So think about and ask yourself, what season are you in right now? Do you need more structure in 2026? Is your body and your brain just kind of craving more workouts and more focus on your health and your wellness? Or do you need less? Maybe you've been going really hard for a really long time and you need to be a little more gentle with yourself. I am telling you that I have been coaching women in both directions in 2025. I've been coaching some women who really need to build more structure in terms of their food choices and their movement, and those who really need me to help them ease themselves up a little bit. They have been going so hard for so long that they don't know how to feel good with themselves and feel good in their body if they aren't always pushing and pushing and pushing. So I want you to think about what you need. Maybe you've been too hard on yourself. Maybe you've been going too hard. Or maybe like me, you actually had a really relaxed year in 2025 and you want to step it up. Or maybe you want to keep things exactly the same because it's working for you right now. There's no right or wrong here. The only right answer is what is really true for you. So I want you to be thinking about that this week as we kind of move into next week and into the challenge. And when we get into the challenge on next Monday, on January 5th, I want you to know that we are going to build a plan together that fits the season that you are in. But for right now, let's just get honest with ourselves about what we actually need. Okay, my third lesson. This one was a game changer for me. Stop doing it alone. Stop going it alone and get help when you need it. For so long, for so many years, I always thought that I had to do this on my own. I thought I had to lose weight on my own. I thought I had to get better at moving my body on my own. I thought, you know what? I'm the one who is responsible for all of this. But here's the thing that just didn't work for me in 2025 that I have finally realized, and maybe this is another thing that you need to focus on, or maybe it's something else completely. But what did not work for me in 2025 was trying to figure out my hormonal health all by myself. Doing my research, reading a bunch of things that work for other people. It just hasn't been working for me. I've been dealing with perimenopause symptoms. I've been having sleep issues up the wazoo, energy issues, and right now I'm experiencing, including today, including this second, a lot of really painful bloating around my period. And I've been trying to manage it all on my own. Now, I did figure out some things that help, some things that are working for me. For example, earplugs have been the biggest game changer on the planet with sleep. They are helping me sleep so much better. My sleep isn't anywhere near perfect. It isn't even remotely great. But I found that if I wear earplugs when I go to bed, when I'm having those natural wake cycles during the night, oh my gosh, I could go down a rabbit hole with sleep like nobody's business. But basically, most of us have a sleep cycle of around 90 minutes or so. And I was finding that I was having a really hard time getting back to sleep after those natural rousings. And I found that if I had earplugs in, then I wasn't going to be distracted by the sound of my husband breathing or the sound of the dog breathing or the dog moving around, or I wouldn't be distracted or woken up by those things. So really just cheap drugstore earplugs, those foam suckers, they actually work better in terms of canceling out noise than a lot of the really fancy, expensive earplugs out there. That's what I've been using. Those have been really, really helpful to me. Creatine has been helping me with my energy. But then I realized it might actually be causing some of the bloating that has been really painful during my periods. So now I've been not taking the creatine in the lead up to my period, but I've been having to load up on ibuprofen instead. So this whole sob story is just to tell you that I have been trying to test and find out what's going on with my hormonal health with myself, basically for the past, I want to say 1 to 2 years. And here's what I've learned. It's not working. I finally realized I don't have to do this alone. And so a few weeks ago, I made a doctor's appointment actually for January 5th. It's on the first day of our challenge because that's what they had available to get some professional help with this. I don't have to go alone. And I'm basically going to be pretty much open to any and all suggestions. Here's what I've learned. Getting help from others when you need it is so much smarter than trying to go it alone. I got a personal trainer when I wanted to start strength training because I knew that going it alone wasn't going to work for me. Why it took so long for me to actually ask for some real help related to my hormonal health, I don't know. But that's something that I have to keep reminding myself. I need help sometimes. I need accountability sometimes, and I just need some guidance. So my question for you is, where do you need help in 2026? What are you trying to do alone that would be easier with support? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your movement routine. Maybe it's your food strategy. Maybe it's figuring out how to balance all of those things. Maybe it's figuring out how to feel better about yourself and your body and how to be more positive about yourself and your body. Maybe you beat yourself up too much. Maybe you need a little bit of extra help losing weight. Maybe you aren't just self-motivated and able to lose weight and keep it off without some formal help and some formal assistance. So I want you to kind of think about that. And not to be constantly beating a dead horse here, but that's exactly why I created the January Jumpstart Challenge, was to get you moving towards getting clear on what you want your 2026 to be, how you want it to be different, what kind of consistency, persistence, starting again do you want for yourself in 2026. So if you haven't signed up for the challenge yet, www.sascy.com/challenge. Please do that today. Okay, lesson 4. This one's about how we talk to ourselves. And this, gosh, I need to talk about this because I feel like this was, how do I put this? I don't think I ever would have lost my weight, lost 50 pounds 5 years ago and kept it off if I didn't do this. And being kinder to yourself, giving yourself grace, being curious about what's happening and what's going on with you, instead of feeling guilty, instead of feeling like you're not good enough, instead of beating yourself up when things don't go the way that you want to, that is something that I've carried with me for the past 5 years and that I really had to lean into in 2025, especially because I wasn't moving as much in order to still feel grounded with myself and with my body and with my progress. So I was shifting how I responded when I was overeating. Instead of beating myself up, I was really letting myself get curious about why overeating was happening in 2025. Now, here's the reality. If you are someone who is prone to overeating, and if you have overeaten in the past, and if overeating is for you something that you have just always done like it was for me, it's not the kind of thing that you're just going to stop forever. What happens with overeating is that we learn how to recognize it. We learn how to identify it, notice it, deal with it so that it's happening less. And that has been a big thing for me. So I continued to keep my food guidelines pretty much in place in 2025. I generally have the same thing for breakfast and lunch every day to keep things super simple, keep the drama and the decision making out of my head, because I don't want to be worried about what I'm eating all of the time. I don't want there to be so much food noise in my head. And I want to also do what feels good in my body, and focusing on stopping when I've had enough and focusing on not overeating. But overeating still happens for me, especially during crazy times, hormonal times, when there's so much good food around. And when they do, I've learned to not beat myself up about it anymore. Instead, I get curious and I ask myself, why is this happening? Why am I overeating? What do I actually need? Am I stressed? Am I bored? Am I tired? Am I needing to drink more water? Was I just kind of caught up in the moment with my family and I just kind of kept eating and eating and eating until I wasn't paying attention and I found myself overly full? And I give myself some grace and some kindness and some consideration. I don't punish myself. I don't then try to restrict my eating the next day. I just start again. And this has been huge for me. I mean, last night I didn't actually eat dinner last night. And the only reason I didn't eat dinner last night is because I wasn't hungry for it. I overate throughout the day to the point where I did not get hungry again at dinner time. And so instead of just eating dinner because it's time to eat dinner, I checked in with myself and I said, hey, how are you actually feeling? Do you actually need food tonight? And the answer was, no, I don't. In fact, I really don't want it. I don't want any. I am full right now. And that's what I want you to be kind of thinking about is I wasn't beating myself up for eating too much during the day. If I was hungry last night, I most certainly would have eaten dinner, but I just wasn't hungry. And so I was like, I don't think I'm going to have dinner tonight. I think I'm going to have a cup of tea because I'm cold and that will really warm me up. That was my thought process. There was no drama. I wasn't restricting myself. I wasn't thinking, oh no, I can't possibly eat anything tonight because I ate so much during the day. I'm hungry again, but oh no, absolutely not. That's not how to handle these situations. There's an honest check-in with yourself. Am I hungry? No, I'm not hungry because I overate. And so I'm going to kind of do things a little bit differently this year and not give myself a hard time over those overeats and really just, ask myself, what was happening? What was going on? And when it comes time to eat again, during those normal breakfast, lunch, dinner times, am I actually hungry? This morning I woke up and I still was not very hungry. So I had a really small breakfast instead of a larger breakfast because I really didn't want anything that big. Also, I'm having some tummy trouble right now too. So a lot of food doesn't feel really good in my body. So these are the things that I'm just being really curious about. And notice that there's no judgment. There's no restriction. Notice how neutral I am talking about this. I'm just curious about it. It's like, oh, what's kind of happening? What's going on? Oh, I get why this is happening and going on. This is how I am going to handle it. So here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about how you talk to yourself when things don't go perfectly. And I want you to think about, when I overeat, when I skip a workout, when I skip a bike ride, when I skip a strength session, when I don't follow through on something that I planned for myself, what do you say to yourself? Are you mean? Are you harsh? You say like, oh my gosh, what is the matter with you? How do you keep doing this? Why are you such a loser? Why can't you just eat like normal people? These are all the conversations that I had with myself for years. And guess what? Those conversations just made me feel like garbage. They made me feel bad, and they didn't put me in a place where I was able to make any kind of progress. I just continued to overeat. So I want you to be kind of thinking about that. What if in 2026 you got curious instead? What if you asked yourself, what do I need in this moment? What can I learn from this situation? That one shift from guilt to curiosity can change absolutely everything. And when we get into the challenge together, we're going to practice this. For now, though, I just want you to kind of notice it. I want you to think about, how do you talk to yourself? What would it feel like if you talk to yourself a little bit kinder? One of the other things that I like to do is I like to think about, how would I talk to a friend? How would I talk to my best friend about something like this? How would I talk to my child about this? How would I talk to that younger version of me who was a teenager and hated her body and couldn't figure anything out? Would I be as mean to her as I would be to myself right now? And the answer is always absolutely not. Be your own best friend. Be like your own mom. And ask yourself, how can I actually be kind to myself so that I can do something that feels good and actually get the results that I want? So last lesson. I know I'm a little bit longer this week just because I'm really reflecting, and I want you to really, really reflect too. But my last lesson of 2025 that I want to share with you is that simplicity always wins. Simple routines, simple choices, removing, decision fatigue. That has been huge for me in 2025. I've been keeping everything really simple. I've been keeping food incredibly simple. I've been keeping my workouts really simple. I've been keeping my bike rides really simple. I have the same breakfast and lunch every day. I know I mention that all the time, but it's just so freeing to not have to make that choice. I know what feels good in my body, and that simplicity removes so much decision fatigue. I'm not saying you have to eat the same thing every day like I do, but for me, it totally works. It works great. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to decide. I just know this is what I eat for breakfast. This is what I eat for lunch. Then I have flexibility with dinner, and I just eat dinner with my family, and I know that I'm going to have salad on half my plate or vegetables on half my plate when I eat dinner. This simplicity has been so freeing because I am busy, and I know you are too. And I do not have the time or the energy to make a million food decisions every day, so I keep it really simple. And that's something I'm carrying into 2026. That's something that really is working for me right now. I want to keep everything as simple as possible. I want to focus on routines that feel good, that remove friction, that remove decisions. And so my question for you is, what is one simple routine that you could create for yourself in 2026 that would make your life easier? Maybe it's a simple food routine. Maybe you have the same thing for breakfast and lunch every day for a week, and then you change it up for next week. So you only have to make that decision once. Maybe it's a movement routine. Like you're going to always walk after dinner. Even if it's just 5 minutes, you're going to take a walk after dinner. Maybe it's a sleep routine. Maybe you are going to get in bed by 10 p.m. every single night that you possibly can. So I want you to think about what one thing is simply that you could use to remove some of the decision fatigue and friction in your life and just make your life feel a little bit easier every single time. Think about that. And when you come into the challenge on January 5th, we're going to build a plan that's simple and doable for you. Again, it's all about keeping things really, really simple. Okay, so those are my 5 lessons from 2025. Now, let's recap everything and let's talk about what to do next. Okay, so lesson 1, movement doesn't have to be formal. Neat exercise, non-exercise activity, thermogenesis counts. All movement counts. Give yourself credit for what you were able to do, for everything you're already doing. 2, consistency looks different in different seasons. What worked for you last year might not work for you in 2026. Make your plan in accordance with the season that you are in. 3, you do not have to do it alone. Get help when you need it. If you are struggling with something with your physical health, find a health professional. If you are struggling with weight loss, if you're struggling with movement, find a coach that you trust to really help you build a plan that works for you and hold yourself accountable. You don't have to do this alone. 4, give yourself grace. Be curious instead of beating yourself up. When things don't go perfectly, I want you to get curious instead of being mean to yourself. Ask yourself, what do you need? What can you learn from the experience that you had? How can you move forward and focus on what you have been able to do as opposed to focusing on everything that went wrong? And then finally, number 5, simplicity is king. Simplicity is queen. Simplicity wins. Create simple routines that remove decision fatigue and make your life easier, because it is so easy to become just as mentally exhausted as we are physically exhausted. Now, here's what I want you to do this week. Reflect on your 2025. Ask yourself those questions that I gave you. What movement are you already doing that counts and feels good? What movement do you want to do next year? What season of life are you in? What is actually doable and reasonable for you right now? Where do you need help? Where do you need support? How have you been talking to yourself? Have you been your biggest cheerleader, or are you constantly that coach that just keeps tearing yourself down? I want you to think about that. And then finally, what can you simplify? What can you make easier? I want you to write it down. Open your notes app, open a notebook. Maybe you're a big notebook person like me and you got some fantastic notebooks for Christmas like I did. Write it down. Think about it. Be really, really honest with yourself so that you can make progress next year. When you show up to the challenge on January 5th, I want you to come in with just some ideas, some rough ideas about what worked in 2025 and how you want 2026 to be a little bit different. And then we're going to spend 5 days kind of building that plan together to make it happen. It's going to be so freaking awesome and fun. So speaking of the challenge, if you haven't already signed up, my goodness, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? It's totally free. It's just 5 days. And we're going to hit the ground running on January 5th, because who's ready to do anything on January 1st? Go to www.sassy.com, SASCY.com/challenge and sign up. And if this is not January, 2026 for you, and you're listening to this later, just go there anyway, because there will be details for the next challenge, or you will be able to get on the wait list for the next challenge. www.sascy.com/challenge. I run free challenges all the time, and there will most certainly be one coming up soon enough for you to get yourself going with and get yourself on the wait list for. We're going to get ourselves squared away in 2026. We're going to get our goals squared away. We're going to develop a simple plan for movement and food that actually fits in your life for 2026. And we're going to make sure that you don't become a part of the National Quitters Day statistic on January 9th. The actual day moves around. It's supposed to be the second Friday in January, but basically it's when all of your New Year's resolutions fall apart because you don't have a consistent plan and you don't have consistent support. Most women make resolutions without an actual plan, or their plan is so restrictive that they can't possibly stick with it. We're not doing anything that we aren't willing to do for the rest of our lives. We're not doing Whole30s. We're not doing keto. We're not cutting out all the things we love. Let's just kind of focus on making a plan that will fit our life and make our lives better. So we're going to move forward in 2026. We're going to make 2026 feel good. Feel different. We're going to start it with clarity and a plan that we can stick with and have some support along the way. That's what this challenge is all about. Again, amazing 2026, www.sascy.com/challenge to sign up. And here's the thing. Challenges are always better with friends. yes, you are going to have built-in friends in this group anyway, but when you have a real life buddy too, then you can check in with each other on your challenge goals and say like, hey, did you get today's assignment? What are you doing for today's assignment? So have a friend sign up with you so that you can kind of chat about the challenge as you go through. It's so much more fun and it is so much more effective. But if you can't think of anybody who's interested, oh, by the way, she does not need to ride bikes. All she has to do is be willing to make a 2026 plan that will fit her life and her goals. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to get started. I don't know if you can tell the excitement in my voice, but I cannot wait to do this with you. Mark your calendars for January 5th. Let's make 2026 the year that you don't quit, because the only difference between someone who gets the results she wants and someone who doesn't is that the woman who gets the results doesn't give up. She finds different ways to do things that aren't working. She stays persistent. She gets really good at starting again when she falls off the rails. And she knows that down the line, all of the little decisions that she's making that are positive and are leading her closer to her goals are going to add up and get the results that she wants. I cannot wait to do this with you. It's just going to be such a great time. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. Thank you for listening to the podcast this week. I am so grateful for you. I love you. And I want you to take this week to rest, to reflect, and get your mind and your brain ready for January 5th for the challenge. Let's do this together. Talk soon. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Biking Wellness Podcast. Be sure to head on over to sassy.com/guide, SASCY.com/guide, to get my completely free Lose Weight Biking Quick Start Guide so that you can get started with simple, doable weight loss today. That's SASCY.com/guide.